Coming up on Green Science Oregon, a state-of-the-art green building is being planned for downtown Portland that will be completely off the grid. The Oregon Sustainability Center will be a 13-story mixed-use building that is designed to produce more energy than it consumes. We'll talk with some of the designers of the building and learn about this collaborative effort that's bringing in research from Oregon universities and an all-Oregon design team. We'll also head to the University of Oregon to check out the solar awning, a design that will be used in the Oregon Sustainability Center that generates electricity, cools the building, and reflects daylight. And we'll learn about Oregon Best, an independent nonprofit organization established by the Oregon legislature to grow a shared network of university researchers, labs, and equipment focused on sustainable built environment and renewable energy.
The Oregon Sustainability Center is a conglomeration of both Oregon researchers, the City of Portland, and a group of nonprofits called the Oregon Living Building Initiative that have banded together to create the Center for Sustainability in Portland. It's really the first stop where everybody who's interested in sustainability will go, and it's intended to be the most important project for people to learn about sustainability and about all things green.
So the Oregon Sustainability Center is roughly a 220,000 square foot building, 13 stories tall, in the center of downtown Portland, really on the fringe of the University District near PSU. And its pursuit is to be triple net zero is kind of one definition of it, to meet the Living Building Challenge, which in essence means to generate its own energy, collect its own water, and treat its own waste on site.
The location is actually on PDC-owned property at 4th and Harrison, which is southeast of the Urban Center Plaza. For those who are familiar with the Portland State University campus, it's where the streetcar cuts diagonally through a building. PDC-owned property, it's about a 3/4 block parcel. There's a little historic apartment building on the corner that will actually remain. And it's in the middle of downtown, just adjacent to Portland State University campus, which we're really excited about. We're also working with Portland State University on another initiative called an Eco District, which is the idea of taking some of these net zero energy goals or energy and water efficiency goals and translating them at a district scale, because at times some of the approaches may be more efficient and there's a better business case to be made at a district scale versus each building accommodating it individually. So this would be the anchor of that eco district.
The Oregon Sustainability Center is really about an idea, and we call it People Are the Life in Living Buildings. And I think what it's going to mean for the people of Oregon is it's a building that'll be designed and constructed by people who lived here. It's an opportunity for us to show to the world our prowess in sustainability, that we're really leading the world in sustainable design. And to have it be something that people come to, we'll be able to export the knowledge through people's learning about the Oregon Sustainability Center, and we'll be also importing people here who are interested in the topic. So I see it as a driver economically as well as intellectually.
The Oregon Sustainability Center is a partnership effort across 3 major categories: across the Oregon University system, across the City of Portland, together with the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, as well as PDC, which is an agency within the City of Portland, and then with a coalition of nonprofits and businesses called the Oregon Living Building Initiative, all of whom will have representative tenants in the building. It would be mixed use between predominantly office together with classrooms for Portland State and Oregon University system students, and then ground floor retail. The going motto, and this came from one of our partners, is this puts a big green stake in the ground on behalf of Oregon. To me, I think it's also, coming from a planning background, it's a pretty interesting next step in the heritage of Oregon. Moving into green building and kind of our leadership around how does green building contribute to our climate related goals, that this is really a next step in that heritage and maintaining our leadership in that heritage. So it's something that comes very much out of the Oregon story, and moving the Oregon story into the next generation.
I think the project really could have a lot of meaning for the state, not only as a tourist stop. Streetcar actually runs right underneath the building. The building will be a place where you can test things and go to see things that are already on the market. And also to make people aware that you can do this, that it's not just a little cabin out in the woods, but it's a commercial, maybe high-rise, depending on how tall it is, commercial building that's basically pursuing the highest levels of sustainability. The team went into a series of studies to explore the massing of the building. And a lot of the things that we heard from the tenant group were they didn't want a rectangular building, they didn't want an extruded box. All these shapes represent 220,000 square feet, which was the program direction at the time. So this is an extruded box, 220,000 square feet, that also still maintains meeting the living building challenge, which has a 30-foot distance from core to face of glass. This one basically takes the building and wraps the building around to create an atrium so that the building terraces back, has more of an organic feel, but on the back side more of a kind of a more fabric building. It meets the grid, but has a softer, gentler edge. These are all south facing, so what you're also looking at is a PV array on top to support the building to become a net zero energy building. The next form that we looked at was the teardrop, and then we called it the raindrop because it made people happier instead of calling it a teardrop. But a very pure form that's extruded upwards. Again, still meeting the living building challenge, looking at ways of bringing light into the building. The next shape was a nautilus shape, which takes kind of the nautilus shell and then extrudes it upward as well, very pure form. Very, again, curvilinear, looking at ways of bringing in light, creating outdoor space. And on this one, having a very kind of orthogonal backside meeting the city grid. Then we started getting a little bit crazier. We looked at one that we called the kidney bean or the frijole, which began to step in 6 floors, increments stepping back, trying to optimize its solar orientation to the south, and looked at other opportunities to bring light in this case, drilling through to bring light down to the threshold on the back side. The next one that we looked at is, we called it the torque. And really this took the floor plate and torqued it about 4 degrees every floor until it reached its optimal orientation for this cap, which was the PV array. We then worked on this series back here that continued to explore the idea of how to bring light down into the building, creating some outdoor spaces and also creating some atrium effects on the inside. And then the third scheme kept it a little bit more orthogonal on the back side and really started to explore the idea of creating terraces on the north side of the building and creating, instead of gardens going all the way through the building, stacks of gardens which happened along the north side, which were in opposite with the terraces that were happening on the south side. So on one floor you'd have outdoor space, on another floor you'd have a winter garden. This is the direction that we ended up exploring all the way until we got to the completion of the feasibility study. This one we started adding some greenery to it and really looked at that floor plate as torquing. So the columns are twisting, the floor plates are twisting, quite literally. That probably became a little bit too strong of a move in the end, to the point where we started looking at more of an extruded form as opposed to more of kind of this extreme. So we have the synthesis in the shapes between the two, but in the end it has less of a torquing element to it than it did in this previous image. So this is really where we ended up. The skin of the building with the sunshades on the south side, the gardens on the south side as well, PV canopies and awnings down below to capture sunlight. This large one would allow light to pass through it, as well as this lower one, so that you'd have a dapple effect of light on the plaza, so it wouldn't turn it dark. This one is more of kind of your typical standard PV that you'd see, polycrystalline, looks like a circuit board, is sitting on the top of the building. And then on the north side, there's a series of 2-story gardens that stack and twist down the north side to give something back to the skyline as you're looking back at the building.